Friends, I am back with the bent pipe tutorial. A user had an issue while 3D printing. I've got a strategy that'll make it easier, so let's get cracking. Friends, step one, of course, is to get into Tinkercad, find our design, and I don't want to wreck the original, so I'm going to click the gear and I'm going to choose duplicate. Once again, this is the project. It is a 7-minute tutorial. Of course, I'll have a link up here. Friends, let me show you how we could print this in halves. I'm simply going to measure this distance, see how it's 135, and I'm going to bring out a cube. I'm going to do half of 135, which is 67.5, and press enter. And then I'm going to make it larger than the shape. To make it easier to tell that I've got it all, I'm going to switch to what's called flat view. I'm going to look at it from the top. There you can see I've selected the entire thing. So now I can grab it and do Control G to group it, which also means cut it. Bingo, we have got half the project. I'm going to hit D to drop so that it is ready for 3D printing. I'm going to switch back to perspective view because that's the way that I prefer to see these. And the user mentioned they can weld their parts together. I am going to create tabs though so that I can screw mine together. If I select F to fit view, you can see it'll make a great tab. I'm going to stand it up using rotate. If I do shift rotate, it's 45 degrees at a time, which makes that a little faster. D to drop. I want my tab to be 4 millimeters thick. I'm going to stay with those same measurements, and I'm going to just put a tab here. Notice I can use the arrow keys to nudge it in so that it connects. And because I've got 5 millimeter walls, it's easy to make that connect. Now I'm going to connect these with screws. So I'm going to bring out a cylinder, maximize the sides, and I'm going to shift stretch and then type the diameter I want. I've got 4 millimeter screws, so I'm going to just cut in a 4 millimeter hole. That'll make it a little bit snug as the screws go through. I'm going to shift select those two parts, choose L for align, make the blue one the boss so I can choose center, and I'm going to go to the top. And now use the arrow key to just nudge it in 1-2 clicks. If I select those two and do Control G, my tab is now built. I'm going to do Control D for that, and I'll move a tab to the other side with Shift nudge, and then I'm going to mirror it. Of course, using the arrow keys to get it back into place. Once I get to the wall, I'm going to stick it in one. And then I could put these wherever I wanted. I'm going to put one right here. And then I'm going to put one on this edge as well. Simply duplicate, rotate, and nudge. Notice if you ever make a mistake, you can just do Control Z to back up. And I'm going to call that good to go. I'm going to select all of that and do Control G. So it's one piece. And then remember we need the two pieces, so watch this. Control D. And right now it is not aimed right. I'll show you that by lining it up. Let's just stand this up 90 degrees, do D for drop. And if we take this and stand it up 90 degrees and do D for drop, they are obviously identical. We can solve that by simply going to the mirror tool and bingo, we've now got both parts. I'm going to rotate it to lay it down. D to drop. And I'm going to rotate it to lay it down. D to drop. Now I can take this and rotate it 90 degrees. Notice I'm not using flip because that would break that mirror we just did. And we can get those aligned. If you had a large enough printer, you could actually print them both at the same time. If you don't have a large enough printer, well, obviously you just export these as single files. Friends, let's export this. I'm going to click on it, make sure it's inside the grid. I'm not going to worry about this one because we can also mirror them in our slicing software. I'm going to choose export as an STL. I always save in my 3D modeling folder, and I'm going to call this half bent pipe. Just so we can see the difference, I'm also going to back up and I'm going to open the original one. I'm going to grab all of it and let's export it as one piece as well. This way we can compare the printing time. And this one I'll simply call Bent Pipe Basics. I'm of course using Bambu Lab Studio. Let's choose create new project and let's import the large one first. Notice it does not fit. So I would have to adjust this to make it work on my printer. Since this is a part I don't really need, I'm going to just scale this today so we can still get an idea of how it would work. So I'm going to take 100% and make it 80%. Now that part fits. Real quickly, we do need to note that we are going to need supports and we probably want raft on this. So I'm going to click on support and I'm going to enable it. And now I'm going to slice the plate. Let's see just how long this would take to print at 80% of that real size. We are looking at a 16-hour print with that design scaled down. I'm going to quickly back up to prepare. Let's hit delete. Let's bring in our half part. Once again, I'm going to scale it to the 80%. One nice thing about this is because it's laying flat, I can shut off supports. I've printed projects before with curves like that, so I think it is going to be absolutely fine without them. Now when we click slice plate, we're looking at a 4-hour print instead. So we took something that was going to be 16 hours and turned it into 4. If you wanted to have your supports, let's go back and just click it and slice it. And with supports, then it takes it up to 8 hours. So if you believe your printer can handle it without those supports, this is a huge time saver. Now, I do not need one of these, but here's what I'll do. Let's shut off supports, and I'm going to scale it down to a size where I don't feel like I'm wasting time and plastic. Let's go down to 40%. So we scaled that down. That makes these walls thinner too. I'm going to switch to a different color. I'll use my generic white. Let's slice that plate. Notice it goes all the way down to under an hour. And let's print that plate. Double check my settings. Send to the 3D printer. After a moment, it bounces to the device menu. And once the downloading finishes, we can click play and monitor everything from afar. And here we are less than an hour later. Once again, this is scaled down, but check it out. That turned out pretty awesome. Once again, there is a little bit hanging down, but you could file that off super easy. This was only about 1 millimeter thick. Remember, our original part would have been 5 millimeters thick. Even at 1 millimeter, it is actually, I think, rigid enough that you could use this if you had parts that fit. How cool is that? Friends, there you have it. Simple steps to take Tinkercad projects, cut them in half, and shave a lot of time off your printing. Friends, I want to say thanks to all of my supporters on Patreon. Absolutely love how that community is growing. Don't forget you can check the links in the description or the bit.ly up above. Finally, friends, I want to thank you for watching this video. Don't forget, every time you click that like button, share a video, add a comment, or hit subscribe, you're helping HLModTech get just a little bit bigger, which absolutely makes my day. Finally, friends, have a glorious day and keep tinkering.